I am here with she doesn't know that she's one of my mentors because
Oh,
she
come on.
doesn't realize how much I've been following her, but we wound up being in the same Illinois deck, the District Export Council together, and I was thrilled and she was just like, "Who are you?"
Oh,
But she's accepted me, but the marvelous Toyin Umasiri. And we are talking about money, which she has many videos on, and you want to check out some of those. Just put in her name and put in business, and she's just going to pop up all over the internet. But I really wanted to delve into how she thinks about entrepreneurs that are starting off or wherever you are, if you're just beginning or you're at a middle ground and you're thinking that you want to grow and to a place where you can export or even deal with imports, but to that level. So let me ask you just if there's anything else that you want to say about yourself or the Illinois deck, please feel free and
oh.
then give us your opinions.
First of all, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for having me and setting this up. And it's such a delight to also have you on, on the deck. And I think business is something that we get to be passionate about. I personally feel like if there's anything I want, I can do anything I want to do in the world. And whatever I choose to do, it's my choice and I want to bring my full self to it. Right. So I'm quite passionate about business, growing, the future business owners and educating them, enlightening them, supporting them any way I can. Because as somebody that served as a strategist for the biggest company in the world, Fortune 1, and I serve on the board of a public company, I feel like I have, things to share and things to help mentor the next future business owners and business leaders as well. So it's a passion project for me.
I didn't even know that. I didn't, but I could have figured that out.
Yes. I served as a strategist at the headquarters of Walmart, which is Fortune 1. And so when it comes to the, supply chain logistics back end of the world's largest company, that's actually my expertise. So I bring big business strategies to the world of small business.
I love it. I love it. And so, why did you decide, or how did you decide that you wanted to be a part of the Illinois District Export Council?
Actually, the US government asked me if I would um, be interested in joining. So, as you know, I host international summits. And so several years ago, I hosted, Prosper Africa team, which represents 17 US government agencies that coordinates and facilitates US trade with Africa. And so during the debrief, after I had hosted the event, we got talking just like this. And I said, Toyin, oh, now that you're in Illinois, do the Illinois District Export Council? And I said, well, when I was in Arkansas, I worked briefly with the Arkansas deck. And so they said, well, they're recruiting. Do you want us to introduce you to the team? You have to apply on. And I was like, yeah, sure. And so that's where that journey started. And it's been amazing. So yeah. So actually the conversation was activated by US government agents.
Wow. Okay. So right. So I first I went to the summit. Was it a summit? That were you calling it a summit at that point?
Yeah, I've hosted several, but yes, there was one in 2019. Yes.
The 2019 one is the one that I attended in Oak Brook.
Yes. Yes.
Fabulous location. And was that all about, that was, I remember that there was yeah, it was all about Africa.
Yes.
And there was a specific coffee company
Westrock
that
Coffee.
wait, which one was that?
Westrock Coffee Company.
Delicious. I mean, all the food. Oh my God, the food, like, don't even get me started talking about food. The food was fabulous. But what is your, okay, so now I know that you have worked on the board for Walmart, Big Law.
Okay, I just want to make sure let's get this. I work on the board of Westrock. I've
Westrock,
worked, yeah, and I've worked for the strategy at Walmart. So I
the
was a staff,
strategy,
yes,
the
strategy
business,
team. Yes.
Okay, the business strategy for Walmart, I mean, all huge. And then what is right now your connection to Africa?
So
What's the business connection?
So my company actually, Nazaru, we're probably the leading company where we're growing a new industry, literally. This idea of business connection back to the continent, not just through the lens of aid, but trade, import, export, so mutually beneficial opportunities. And so over the years, we educate, we connect, we provide insights to those who want to be part of that, the future, right? When it comes to Africa being the frontier for commerce, right? So how
Right.
do we educate? How do we connect? How do we enlighten the key stakeholders at the forefront of leading this movement? So my company is actually built around that. So we offer education, we offer events connection, we offer platforms, we offer consulting to really accelerate and we serve as a catalyst to speed it up. It's going to happen anyway, right? It's going to
Yes.
happen. It's
Yes.
happening. So
Yes.
what we hope to do is to serve as a catalyst to help people speed up the opportunities they're seeing into transactions, right?
Okay.
Everybody perceives there's opportunity, but it requires skills to
Yes.
take those opportunities from
Yes.
concept into actual transactions.
Yes. So I had actually forgotten this, that was what your company did. On Friday I attended I sit on the board for the African Global Chamber of Commerce. I don't know if you know
Yes, yes,
Dr. Kamazi.
yes.
And and now we just got status as a trade representative. So we are, yes, that's been amazing. And we are working with the country of Uganda
Mm-hmm.
to facilitate the trade, into the states, and mainly and starting in Illinois and making
Yes,
sure it goes from there.
yes.
So I'd love to, work with you and connect. I don't, you're probably already connected at some level, but
Oh, you can, I mean,
you can't
connection,
separate it.
yeah, you can definitely do that. So I think for me, I'm keen on the technical side, right?
Okay.
The
Okay.
technical, so there's the relationship side. So
Yes.
for example, 2019, we had the ambassador, we had key stakeholders. But what I have seen over the years is that there's a lot of talking, but the doing side, okay? And most people do not have the skill, right? Most people do not have the supply chain logistics skill that is required to actually move products from point A to point B.
It's true.
That's the number one gap.
Yeah.
So while we host events, we do a ton of events, I'm more keen on training capacity development because it's such an immature space. And the reason it's immature is lack of skill.
Mhm.
Like I'm a straight shooter. I say it right. I'm quite direct. Is that the skill development in
You
terms of
mean, and you're talking about in the diaspora, all of us trying to do it, right?
right?
Because there are some people, some companies like Walmart, I mean, they know what they're doing. So we're talking about,
They do because they hire the best experts. Okay, those who are winning, they're winning because they have experts.
mm,
That's the only way you win in business,
mm-hmm,
right? So
right?
let me share some of the things I've seen is that number one, many people that have never built a business before, they get excited about trade with Africa. But international trade is the Olympics of business. It's not the easiest thing you can get into.
No, it's not. No,
Okay.
it's
So that's why I actually started teaching entrepreneurship as well. Because the mindset you want to bring into international trade has to be business acumen. What are
yes.
you selling? What are you trying to buy? Do you have
Mhm.
basic negotiation skills? Can you pitch? Can you sell? Can you can you design, right?
Yes.
We all see the opportunities, but how do you take the opportunities into transactions?
Yes.
Market
Make it
entries,
practical.
right? Market entry strategies,
Mhm.
export development. These are business language. These are strategy-based concepts. You don't go in first and then figure it out. you actually need to figure out and develop your own strategy, your 2, 3, 5, 10-year strategy, and then execute on the strategy. So
Yes.
many people rush in and then they rush out, right? Because they are not handling it. They need to be handling it as a business venture. And so part of the conversation I have with Washington is that Africa for many, many, many generations has been heavily politicized. Like it's about politics and government to government and back and forth. Nothing wrong with that. But what we need to do is business to business,
Do you
right?
think, I mean, Toyin, do you think that that is purposeful? Or do you think, because in a lot of the rooms that I'm in, the conversation is way up here. And when
Mhm.
I ask a question, you know, I'm a straight shooter too. And I'm like, look, on the ground, who do I connect? What person, what phone number do I call to connect this person with that person so we can get this going?
Right.
So then I'm looking at all, you know, the length of time that is taken for even like AGOA. Like, what's happening? Why does the conversation stay here? Is it purposeful?
Well, okay, this is it's back to the structure of government, the structure of business, the structure of reality is that when you have a big company, there's the CEO, there's the board, there's the middle manager, there's the front line. And each of those conversations, there's different vantage point, different viewpoint, different skill level. So I sit on a board. The conversations we have at the board level is not what frontline workers are exposed
Right.
to. So when
Right.
I'm engaging or interviewing an ambassador, the conversation stays at their level,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Okay.
What's going on when I talk about skill? The reason skill is important is no matter what you talk about at the highest levels, if you don't have the right tactical execution experts, nothing is going to happen. Okay? You can shake hands, you can take pictures, everybody, you can even sign documents and sign treaties and sign trade agreement. They've done their part, right? The ambassadors have done their part. The heads of states have done their part. The trade ministries have done their part. I actually train government officials as well. The gap is several steps down. The people to execute the strategy, they do not know how to translate the letter of the law, right? The business community doesn't know how to lift the letter of the law and implement it, right? The technical experts. Let me give you an example. Several years ago, when I came to Chicago from Arkansas, I literally wanted to use AGOA. And I went to the US Border Patrol here. And they told me they've never heard about AGOA before.
Oh my God.
And they were arguing with me, literally at the window. And I was like, listen, this is right. And then they said, you know what, go and talk to the best agents, you know, here. And it's okay, I'll do this because this is my thing. I just moved here. And then I went to the office. The lady was trying to walk me out of her office that I didn't. I was like, lady, time out. I know this thing more than you. Where is your boss? Where is your boss? And then I went to the leader, the owner of the customs clearance agency thing. And I was like, listen, here's the website. Here's what I'm trying to tell you to use. The goods that I'm bringing in, zero tariff. And they were like, no, that's not possible. I was like, listen, I'm not going to pay you. Go figure this out. I'm going to send you the link. I'll send you all the information. I'm not paying a tariff. It took them a week or two, almost 2 weeks, to figure it out and send me the right invoice. I didn't pay tariff because I insisted.
Oh my God.
Because I knew what I was doing. And this is the team, because I was new. This was like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was just new to this region. I was like, I cannot believe this. If I did not have the expertise,
It's
they would
not
have
gonna.
insisted for me to pay the tariff. But I was like, no. So my goods went into demurrage. I was like, fine, but I'm going to insist that you do your due diligence and you do your research. right? So the US government frontline, this is something that has been existing for 20 years. Chicago they didn't know about it. The custom clearance people did not know about it. So I've written about this before. So Washington and government leaders can be throwing a party on AGOA every year. They can be spending millions of dollars and saying they're training people. That's fine. But if I want to close a transaction, literally it's a transaction, shipment coming from an AGOA eligible country coming into Chicago, and the people that are supposed to go through the document, they're arguing with me that this doesn't exist. They've never heard it before. Nobody has educated them on this before, that I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, no, ma'am, I'm here. Like, listen, I'm going to insist. The only way I insisted is because I know they don't know. And that's when I was like, okay.
Got to take a step back, huh?
Well,
I mean, for educating the community, because I mean, I'm just thinking, what does that mean? Does that mean that
it means
no one was using it? No one was using
it? No, nobody's using it. That's what it means. The people using it, they're using it more oil, extractive resources, on and on. So people are overpaid. They've been overpaying. This is what that's one of the things when I talk about my classes and courses, is that there is a cost to ignorance. Right? People don't it's just eating. The cost of ignorance is eating. There's a price to not knowing. You're going to pay the 15, 20, whatever %. That's the cost of not knowing. And I've gone to many stores that import from Africa. They have zero idea about this. They're not using it. Okay, so that's what I mean. That's what I mean about, yes, I host events. Yes, I engage ambassadors. Yes, I engage decision makers at the highest levels. Fantastic, yes. Where's the transaction? So that's my own. So everything that I say, everything that I teach, everything that I document is not theory, it's practical. So when I speak about these things, there are real stories behind the things I teach. The reason I'm passionate about this is we cannot sit down and say, oh, everything is fine. No, it's not fine.
No, it's not.
No.
No, it's not.
People don't know how to use this thing. This is where investments needs to go. But anyway, so that's just an example of what I mean by skills, education, right? Who's responsible for that? Right?
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because being in the room and having the conversations is what you're saying. It doesn't mean that it's going to filter down.
Yeah.
And when it filters down, if you don't have someone that's actually walking through it, we're still not going to know.
Right. People don't understand the power of training. It's simple. That's it. I don't mean talking. I don't mean strategizing. I mean skills transfer.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
Without skills, without knowledge, without training, without skills, there is no supply chain logistics. There's nothing there. There's nothing.
No.
You don't move a product from point A to point B without people knowing what they're doing.
That's right.
And so that's when it comes to Walmart, that's the whole point of it. Like, you can design all the strategy you want, but you have to train your people. And so who is responsible for training the exporter, the importer, the agents, right?
Right.
The government officials across board to open up the market, to open up this entire supply chain. Who pays for that?
Wow. Okay. That
I'm giving you something to think about for sure.
Yeah, it's I mean, I can see it though. I can see it very, very clearly. Even for myself, I can see myself in these high level meetings thinking, oh, this is great, this is happening, but it's not filtering down. Because I'm thinking, look, I'm thinking somebody else is doing that.
Ooh,
But if nobody else is doing it, then I have to take responsibility, step to the plate. Let's get it done.
right.
And
So this is
I,
why we, yeah, this is where we talk about the value, the entire chain. This is a strategic discussion. The entire chain of moving products from the US to the continent and from the continent to the US. It's a technical discussion.
yes, yes, it is. Okay. Wow. Okay. I know you just threw that one in for free. I didn't even know I was going to get that. Let's talk about the money.
Mm.
Illinois DEC just hosted for the VP of the advisory board for Exim Bank to come to Chicago. You actually did that. Thank you. That
Oh,
was an
partnership.
amazing discussion.
Thank you.
Amazing discussion with her. You're welcome. But if we don't even have this bottom level, that's we're not sure if we're going to a venture capitalist or some kind of angel funding or looking for a grant or a bank, where to start with this money. And like when we first started this conversation, I was telling you, whenever people come to me, they're like, oh, I can't do this because I need the money. I need the money. I need the money. Well, not really sure you need the money. Hold up on the money. Talk to us about why you think people always think that and where they really need to be starting.
Oh, yes. I don't know if you're aware, but I actually wrote a book, Mindset of an Entrepreneur, right? I have a book
Okay, I don't have
for,
that one. I will be getting that.
it's about the mindset behind entrepreneurship. How do we approach entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm,
And most of the time, people talk about, I want to make money.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
all want to make money. But
right.
what I try to do is help people understand how money flows. Where is that money coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you, because one of the things I try to be funny as well is like, have you ever seen a doctor that doesn't understand how blood flows? Right?
Right.
No. So part of the job and the assignment of an entrepreneur is to understand money, where it comes from, and how it moves from hand to hand. Because that's how GDPs are calculated, economic development, whether in the city, states, right, is how humans exchange goods and services, right? And how currency is introduced to aid that transaction. It's intermediary form of value exchange.
Yes.
So oftentimes I have to go to the history of money to help people understand that we all were doing trade by barter before we started printing money. So humans are always exchanging value. So for an entrepreneur, we need to start thinking about the value we want to transact, the value we want to introduce into the marketplace for which we want to exchange for money. Right?
Right.
And it's about relationships. Right? When all is said and done, you've got to be in the right community that have open hands towards your goods and services. Right? Because
Right.
there are many communities that are closed. Closed community do not build wealth. Right? And closed community looks like people who don't trust themselves. When there is no trust, our hearts are closed off to each other, which what it means is what I have, I cannot give you. What you have, you cannot give me. So there's no transaction. There's no money exchange. Right? We wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be having this conversation and exchanging ideas if our hearts are not open to one another.
Right.
Right? So I go a lot into emotional intelligence for entrepreneurs because you have to develop the skill of engaging with human to human. That's where money, that's how money flows. Right? Is that when we offer services, when we offer value, okay, the clients and customers also give us value in return. What's in their hands? right? So that exchange has to happen. And if you take it steps further into the banking world, into the investment world, banks also release money into the hands of people that they believe can create assets, can create impacts, can create transformation in their community, in their nation as well. So
Yes.
money loves to be transformed into assets.
Mm.
So people would take their money and buy houses, take their money, buy stocks, take their money, buy gold, because the money in of itself can be transformed into assets. So my biggest advice to entrepreneurs is make sure your business is an asset, right? That you're building a structure that contributes to your community, to your society, that other people can see the value that you've created, right? So your
Mm.
brand, your business, your products, your services, your reputation, all of these things hold value that can be monetized.
So people are going in with the wrong question. They're leading with getting instead of what am I bringing to the community,
Right.
at large or the local community.
I prefer that we go in to be useful, right? That we go in to be useful and we see money as the reward of our usefulness.
Mm. Mm.
So there are two sides to use. When I talk about human design, IQ, EQ.
Mm-hmm.
So when we engage with humans and in sales, is that the human mind is designed to achieve, to create, to transform things. We use tools, we consume, as consumers, we use things that are useful, right?
Yes.
Anything that is useful towards the achievement of a goal, we consider it valuable, and we're going to spend our money to buy those things.
Yes. Yes.
The second side of usefulness is emotional. Who we become when we are exposed to those products and services. When your clients come to you,
Mm-hmm.
at the emotional level, you make them feel better. You give them confidence. You remove fear from their heart. You remove pain. That's
Yes.
also that's valuable. People pay for that,
Yes.
to make people feel good,
Right.
remove pain, contribute towards society. So ultimately, we have to be useful, and two, we have to have an emotional positive impact on society.
Mm.
We have to give people experiences. Like, for example, when you came to Aurora, how did you feel? Right? When you came in and experienced that, what was that experience like for you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember. I mean, the way it was set up, I knew that there's getting ready to be what I considered a high level conversation because of the people that are there. It's going to be high level. Get your real thinking caps on. I like got my notepad out, and the exchange. Well, first of all, I noted I'm not sure it's being recorded,
Oh, we
right?
recorded it.
Oh, it was recorded. Okay, so I wasn't sure it was being recorded. So then I was like really, really listening, because sometimes you have one chance to get it. She's not coming, she's not flying into Chicago every day.
Hmm.
And so to understand what her boss is telling her, that's going to filter down and to be able to get it to the people who need it. My brother's a pastor, and he said, look, you got to take the cookie jar and bring it down to where
Hmm.
the children can eat the cookies. And
Absolutely.
so that's what I knew was getting ready to happen, and it's going to be quick. This is like, at least maybe it's an hour-long conversation. And after that, she's going back and we're going back to our respective jobs or professions, whatever we're going to do. And now you got to figure out what's the next move. So, I mean, it was, I knew that coming in, and I don't get to Aurora very often, but what you had the mayor there, or the deputy mayor there, you had Dan from the U.S. Commercial Service, from what is it?
Yes, at the
US,
state level. Yes.
at the state level, you have the representative, and who else was there? Oh, Sam.
Yes.
And then Sam is there, who is president of the Illinois DEC. So you know that this is a serious conversation that is not going to happen that often. So I mean, that was like my mindset going in there.
Right. So that's also part of service, right? I consider that service, creating an atmosphere where people can learn, where people can engage, where people can grow, where people can expand their mind. I consider that service.
Yes. Yes.
And so part of that for entrepreneurs and business owner is to also be aware what atmosphere, what experiences are you creating for everybody coming into your space.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Right? Because at the soul level, I'm quite deep in the sense of, at the soul level, your business is an extension of your personality. Right?
No doubt.
I'm extremely passionate. And I think anybody that comes, you're going to feel some energy. You're going to feel some, excitement.
All the time. All the
That's
time.
part of, that's me. So I let it reflect, right? When people come into my events or they read my newsletter, I'm kind of always like, I vibe, I energy, because that's who I am, whether I'm here, right? And also it's part of relationship. Remember, I talked about relationships, right? Is that business also is relationship, because the impact we have on the people we engage with is what people remember.
So if people go to a bank and they're looking at, I want to start this business, and they haven't really thought through this, then they're going to fill out an application, ask the bank for whatever amount of money, get the money, and start. Let's say they even have a business plan. Let's say, they have a business plan, because you can go to Google or ChatGPT and say, give me a business plan for this.
Right.
So they have the plan, but they're missing it. You're missing it, right? Because there's I love how you say it, like there's a fundamental soul level that you haven't really thought through. And if you don't get a chance to go that deep, you're going to get that money. The people, the money that you're trying to get, you're going to use that money to try and get, because that's your mindset, to get. Now, all you're going to be doing is paying this money back with interest. And you can't then grow it, so then you can be part of the international discussion.
So I love this conversation, because obviously you've talked about many steps, but one thing that I say, just to paint a picture in people's mind, is a building plan is not a building. A business plan is not a business. Right?
It's not.
So to translate a building plan into a physical building requires skill and expertise. What usually happens is we have brilliant ideas. We've been able to articulate it into a building, into a business plan, right? This is what I'm doing, this is what I'm good, right? At the end of the day, that's still theoretical. And it's progress, right? It's progress. Write the vision, make it plain. I love it. Write it down.
Right.
But Where things starts falling is if you give a building plan to a contractor that has never built a building before, what's that building going to look like?
Oh, God.
So that's why I go back to training to say, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, right? Any form of professionalism requires knowledge, strategy, skills, and a new mindset for us to be successful at it. So what I've found is that the very first couple of years of any new business owner, we're literally learning on the job.
Mm.
So most of the things that people talk about failure, for me, having studied this, many of it could have been avoided if we had programs that educated people in terms of what to expect.
Mm.
We are often surprised too much on that journey. What? You mean I need a marketing plan? What? I need a brand? I need this? Nobody told me, right? No, it's this.
Right.
This is overwhelming,
Right.
right? And so for me, part of what I've done is to demystify it, to
Mm-hmm.
make, because my husband is a professor, I'm a business educator. My late father was part of establishing 2 universities. So I absolutely come from a family of university administrator. So I appreciate the concept of human capacity development, right? How
Right.
to how to invest in people, how to
Yes.
train people, how to invest in people so that we can increase our productivity and performance. So entrepreneurship and business development is exactly the same thing, is that we can learn branding, we can learn sales, we can learn business model design, we actually can learn these things. And you still have to learn it by yourself or learn it with somebody else. And it
Yeah.
does take time to develop skills,
Mm.
because skills only develop through repetition and practice, right? So
Right.
part of what I've kind of arrived at is this idea that entrepreneurship ought to be treated as a profession.
Mm.
That's my final conclusion, is that the concept of entrepreneurship is so deep because it forces us to perform at such a high level that the traditional school system has prepared nobody for,
Oh, wow.
right? So it's this idea of, how can you be the person that has an idea, that receives an idea and manifests that idea and commercializes it, okay? And builds a business structure for sustainability around it. That process is intense.
And sometimes people take lifetimes developing it.
Absolutely. But it's absolutely worth it, because this is what moves economies forward. Entrepreneurs are the engine of economic development. Any community, right, that does not invest in entrepreneurship ecosystem will not build wealth.
Mm.
Right? Any community that does not prioritize this conversation will struggle economically. Yeah, last night I still had this conversation with my husband, because I'm also a faith-based, right, coach.
Right. Right.
And the reason I'm also equally passionate about this is that communities that talk about economics and poverty and this, part of it is a belief system shift, a value system shift, a mindset shift. Because wealth creation and poverty mindset does not coexist.
Mm-mm.
Right? There's a way of thinking that leads to lack. There's a way of thinking that leads to wealth. We have to choose which one.
So do you think that I think I know the answer to this, but do you think that the reason that we don't have more entrepreneurs that are able to build their businesses and maintain them, grow them for longer periods of time is because the ones that we've learned from, however that is, a program or, watching someone, that they weren't able to bring it down to a level that says, you're going to fail at this and then you're going to learn. I mean, is that what you think is happening? Because I'm thinking about African American communities, right? And I'm thinking about African communities. Because I mean that's really that's the passion right there, right? We know that Africa, for as long as we've known about, as long as we've called it Africa, right, has had all the minerals, and then they've been taken, and they've been taken by larger forces that we can only, it's like the queen, the kings, the heads of states, whatever. But now when we say let's help the entrepreneurs on the ground in the local communities with the African American communities, and let's try to figure out how do we get them to trade. It's because if I understand what you're saying, it's because those who are not necessarily all the way at the top, but even at a secondary level, are not being honest and truthful about how to do it, or just don't know how to do it, or don't know how to teach it.
So, okay, so first thing about Africa, Africa has always been about trade. What is different is what we call formalized and informal trade. The story of Egypt, listen, there's trade happening all across Africa today, but it's what we call informal. It's still very traditional, cash-based society. And the conversation and the real concept of entrepreneurship, business development is a westernized concept around this type of economies, right?
Right.
When we talk about capitalist society.
Yes.
Okay, is that when you think about regions around the world that wants to grow their economy, in the economics, when economists are talking about, trade, economic value, GDP, how do you grow an economy? There's always different philosophies, principles put to the table. Is it communist? Is it this? Is it that? How do we increase the capital, the assets, the wealth of nations, of people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So Africa is wealthy, but the wealth is not well distributed. Okay? Trade is happening, but the trade is not formalized. Okay? To bring Africa into formal trade, when we start talking about invoices and PO, this is more westernized capitalist instruments of transactions. Right? Listen, right now, at the borders of African nations, people are exchanging cash and they're shipping things anyway. Nobody's tracking it. Right? So trade is happening. People are buying and selling. Africa has always been about trade. Egypt, things are moving across Africa, but it is not visible to the electronic version of trade. It cannot be tracked, it cannot be measured, and so it's not accounted for. Invisible.
Okay.
And so it also means Africa doesn't get the credit it deserves for the trade happening informally on the continent. Okay, so that's a very, very high level. Okay. So where do we go from here? So this is when we talk about what are the opportunities. The opportunity is that formalized trade allows us to make more money. That's the first thing.
Okay. Because we can trade more in greater quantities.
This is when you can go into automation. You can make more money. You can when you have processes, system. I'm a certified SAP consultant. I implement systems for the biggest companies in the world. Listen, the only way Walmart can be making $500 billion a year, the only reason Amazon can be making what it's making is because it's electronic transactions. There's scale. Alibaba is scale. The reason Alibaba.com can be making that much money and wealth being created is that more money can be created when we build infrastructure, modernized infrastructure that allows us to increase the speed of transactions. Right? You can be exchanging $50 all you want with one person. But the moment you get to a point of sale, when you get to automation, you can exchange the same $50 with 1 million people. This is the power of platforms. Technology. Formalized trade allows us to increase the speed of transactions. That's where banks start moving money. Click, 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 click. In a second, how much are people moving all over the world?
Right.
But if you're still, I mean, it's digital versus analog.
Yes.
If you're still going to a physical market to buy this, when somebody has gone online and bought everything they needed to buy,
too late.
The speed of trade is slower, right? The speed is slow. There's human components on and on and on. So what entrepreneurship, business development, the framework, the way I teach, the framework behind formalized capitalism is the concept of how quickly can you sell to as many people as possible and get money as fast as possible. Right? And in order to do that, you need processes. And so I think I've gone into more teaching lecturing now.
I know. I'm eating it up. I'll have you here all afternoon.
Yeah. So when I talk about automation, there's a lot of things I then go. If you build your business, remember I said build an asset.
Yes.
The whole point of building is business structure is inside the business structure, you're going to have processes that are repeatable, predictable, right? And this is how you churn money.
Yes.
But most people never get there.
Right.
It's still one person, right, doing everything. But the businesses that become Fortune 500, it's all about automation and processes and transactions. And so marketing is at scale, sales is at scale, branding is at scale. That's what the biggest brands in the world do. They build structured processes that allows them to rinse and repeat with as many people, and then you push volume of people. So this is where volume of transactions come in. This is where our real wealth is being created by being, should I say, modernized, right? China went through this as well. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, China was also doing all the things. Oh, let's buy this physical transaction. But think about what has happened in the last 30, 40 years. More wealth has been created in China in the last 40, 50 years of China than in the last 200 years of their existence, right? This is the power of taking informal trade, because Alibaba exposed informal trade to the world.
Yes.
So people were already producing things in China, but the automation, the platform allowed them to multiply transactions. So that's the opportunity, that's the gap, that's the opportunity. So when I tell people who build businesses, what vision do you have for your business? If you want to build a house, you can say you want to build a 1-story building, 2-story building. Some people will say, I want a skyscraper. That vision ought to dictate how we build, what we build. Right?
Right. No doubt.
So because If you want to build a skyscraper, it's going to take longer. The foundation, you have to be digging it for years. Whereas somebody next to you just moved into their 1-bedroom apartment and they're like making money. But you are still sinking money into the foundation of your structure.
Right.
So that's also something for people to think about, is that ultimately your vision ought to dictate the level of investment you're putting into your business, what you're building. The relationships you're building, the processes you're designing, the clientele, the types of clients you're pursuing, the relationships you're pursuing, all of that ought to be informed by the vision we carry.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Way more than I bargained for.
Okay, good.
Way more than I bargained for. I want to take some of these concepts and really help these entrepreneurs, which I think that more than half of them may be, this is for this talk on tomorrow, I mean on Wednesday, may be professionals who have this, this skill as a doctor, and but are equating, oh, I already have the skill, so I can open a clinic. But it doesn't translate. The know-how to do the business and just getting the money are not the same thing.
Okay. So what I would, from what you're saying, they have technical skills that they want to commercialize, that they want to sell. Okay?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So that's fantastic. You have technical skills that you want to bring into the marketplace and you want to sell it. What's the gap they need to close is the business structure that needs to house that technical skill.
Yes.
So if you're in corporate, your employer already has built the structure that allows them to sell your technical skills.
Yes. Yes.
When you leave, if you decide to leave your employer and you come out by yourself and you want to sell your own skill, which is what most people want to do. I have these
Yes.
skills.
Yes.
My employer is making so much money from my skills. I'm doing the fantastic job, on and on and on. I think I can go out into the marketplace and sell it myself.
Sell it myself.
Okay, fantastic. The gap is everything your employer did for you, you now have to do for yourself. The relationship that allowed your employer to sell, right, their brand, the brand they've built for generations that makes people trust them to give them money. Now you need to build yours. The marketing language that allows them to attract prospects, right? And follow up with prospects and close the deal. You have to do all of that. Their customer service, you have to do that. So the entire structure that your employer was offering you that made your job really, really easy, that made you just focus on your technical skills. Now,
Yes.
who is responsible for building that 360 structure around your technical skill, right? Because in order for us to sell anything, people need to know us, people need to like us, people need to trust us, people need to believe us, and they need to come and give us the money, right? The money everybody's looking for. And so there is a formalized training around building that business structure around the technical skill. So the technical skill is what's considered the product or service,
yes.
right? The technical skill is the product or service. But people don't just buy products and services, they buy solutions to problems. So how you're going to find people, okay, convince them, persuade them, educate them, enlighten them, communicate with them, build relationship with them, and at the back end, they trust you enough, right, for you to be their choice. That process, you can do it manually every day, right? You can learn it,
Right.
you can build it
Right.
manually. Or
Right.
if you want to build a sustained business, that's when you have to start moving into a structured approach.
Yeah. Wow. I think I'm not going to try to get over all these concepts. I'm gonna maybe go deep on one of them. And what I would like to do, or you may already have something that addresses this. And this is just me. I think well, let me first just thank you for this much, because this is gonna get me through that conversation. So thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording at this point.